To Forging Freedom into the Fire, the podcast where men sharpen themselves and build brotherhood. I'm Zach Monroe, your host, and every week we dig into real stories, gritty adventures, and the mindset it takes to live free and lead strong. Pull up a chair by the fire and let's dive in. Welcome back to another episode of Into the Fire podcast. Today it's just me and the microphone, and I want to share a story about direction, about what happens when you drop your plans, trust your gut, and let the moment decide what matters most. It's a story about my son, the mountains, and a single word that's been stuck in my head for days now. And the word is there. So here's how it all started. It was last Friday afternoon, the kind where we're running on fumes, but still chasing something real. And my wife and I had one of those spontaneous ideas that seem ridiculous when you say it out loud. And we said, let's head to the mountains after school and go catch the sunset. Now, the kids get out of school at 3. Mountains are 2 hours away. We still had to pack the car, grab our gear, snacks, water bottles, you know the drill. And every part of me was thinking, God, this is going to be chaos. But then there was another part of me, that quiet, restless part that said, just go anyway. And, so we did. And we hit the road. We were chasing the daylight toward Lake Placid. You could see the sun already starting to dip. And the sky had that nice, like, golden haze to it. When you're driving through the Adirondacks and everything just feels like it's glowing. Yeah, that was kind of that moment. And as we got closer, I started realizing there was no way we were going to make the mountain that we had planned. There was no chance. So, the old me probably would have called it and said, hey, we'll try it again tomorrow. Let's grab dinner, instead go home. But something in this new me just said, just pivot, and so I did what every dad trying to hold on to a good idea does, and I improvised. And very quickly, we found a smaller, familiar mountain closer to town. It wasn't the one we had originally planned, but it would get us to the summit before the sun had dropped. And so we pulled in the trailhead, we tossed on our packs, and we just went for it. There were no breaks, we had no snacks, just steady hiking, a solid 28 minutes straight up to the peak. Our lungs were burning, hearts were pumping, and, we're kind of just chasing that last little bit of light to the point we even had to turn our headlamps on towards the end. And right as the world kind of started to turn that beautiful orange and gold, we had broke through the trees to the summit, and something really spectacular happened. My son just stopped dead in his tracks, and he looked out over the high peaks, over this just endless stretch of ridge lines glowing in the sunset, and he pointed out and he just said, "There." That's it. One word, there. And, he didn't need to explain it. He didn't need to describe what he saw. He just knew. And at that moment, it hit me harder than I really expected, because here was this little kid standing in a place he'd never been before, seeing a view that just takes your breath away. And without hesitation, without doubt, without overthinking, he just knew. And he knew that this was the moment worth chasing, that this was the reason we had hurried to get in the car right after school, the reason that we had pivoted, climbed, and pushed ourselves. And I thought to myself, Zach, when's the last time I had that kind of clarity? When's the last time I stopped analyzing? When's the last time I stopped planning, controlling, and just said to myself, there? That's where I want to go. That's what I'm after. Not next year, not once things calm down, not once I get my next job lined up. That's what I want now. And just watching him stand there, he's got his orange little Carhartt hat on. He's got his little Osprey backpack, sweat just kind of dripping down his face. I'd realized something else too, that he wasn't thinking about the time that we had lost, or the mountain that we didn't climb, or whether it was worth it. He was just there. He was just fully present. And man, that hit me as a dad, because that is exactly what I want for him, and really for myself too. And to be the kind of man who still sees the world with that kind of wonder, who doesn't overcomplicate simple things, who knows that just being there, really being there, is more important than where there even is. And we live in this constant grind of meetings, of goals, responsibilities, family, bills, deadlines, trying to get the dishes in the sink done, trying to get the lawn mowed, that somewhere along the way, we stop chasing sunsets. We stop pivoting, we stop saying, "Why not?" and start saying, "Oh, maybe I'll do that later." But later never feels like enough, does it? That moment on the mountain last Friday afternoon reminded me a lot of why I started Forging Freedom. For years, I had this notebook, aka a folder on my laptop, and I've shared this on other podcast episodes before, but this is a really fitting example that I've got this folder of business ideas, 16 of them to be exact, 17 counting Forge and Freedom now. But with each one of those business ideas comes a full business plan, a logo, name, budgets, all that stuff that you need to get started and off the ground. I've never moved on any of them. I think I kept waiting for the right time or the perfect version or the approval, but that right never came. That right time. And until one day I stopped waiting and I just said, "There. That's the one. That's where I'm going." No hesitation, no over planning, just that same instinct my son had on the top of Mount Joe last Friday. There. And that's really how Forge and Freedom came to life. And the idea that it's a community built for guys just like me, guys who are craving something real again, whether that be connection, brotherhood, movement, get breaking free of isolation, getting a chance to reset, maybe spend a weekend away or do a side quest and do a couple hours, make new friends. Whatever that is, it's really a sense of purpose that doesn't come from screens, doesn't come from job titles, but it does come from brotherhood, from sweat, from dirt, from shared experiences. And it's really about discovering what is your there. And the wild thing is I've had guys who reach out and say, "I'd really like to show up. Even if I can show up once, I feel like this is an opportunity that can make me feel something that I haven't felt in years." And I think the idea is that not because, we're fixing anything, but we're giving men and guys a platform and a space to just breathe, to really reset and take an opportunity to break free of isolation, to break free of autopilot. And the more I think about it, the more I realize life's about a series of pivots. And I think this is part of the deeper message here is that we set our sights on one mountain, one goal, one plan, but then when things shift and the timing's off or the path changes or the weather turns, we're then faced with two choices. We can either quit or we can pivot. But either way, the sun's still going to go down. And the only way to see the view is to keep on moving. And so that's what my son reminded me of. That's what I want Forge and Freedom to remind other men of. We can't keep wait, or we can keep waiting for the perfect moment, or we can chase the sunset, even if we have to change mountains. That was the lesson that we learned last week. So, I think I'm challenging you maybe this week to just take a moment and ask yourself, what is your there? What's that one thing you've been talking yourself out of? That one goal, that one trip, that one conversation you've been putting off because maybe it's inconvenient or you're scared or uncertain or you're worried about how someone's going to react or feel. What if you just stopped overthinking it and just started walking? Because clarity doesn't always come before the climb. Sometimes it shows up halfway up the mountain or when you reach top of the mountain, or right when you see the light hit the ridge just right. And when it does, you'll know. You'll look out, take a breath, and say, "There." Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Into the Fire. If this story hit home for you, if it made you think about your own there, please share it with someone who might need that reminder too. And if you want to be a part of what we're building, this movement of men reconnecting through outdoors, through honest conversations, through real life, please check out our website, forgeandfreedom.com. And don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on every platform that there is. Just look up Forge and Freedom, and we're putting out sometimes daily content. And just remember that there's a place for everyone here. So until next time, keep forging ahead, keep chasing the light, and remember, sometimes the there isn't a place, it's a mindset. We'll see you on the next episode.